Community, welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Bernard Aylward, who's the CEO of Kodal Minerals, a junior explorer with a primary focus on the immediate exploration and definition of the lithium mineralization at the Bougouni Project in southern Mali. The company holds a prospective suite of gold assets in West Africa as well. Bernard is a geologist with over 20 years experience in the mining and exploration stages in a variety of commodities in Australia, Europe, South America, and West Africa. It'd be good to hear from Bernard, and I've got him on the podcast so he can explain how Kodal have recently announced a series of encouraging updates relating to their gold portfolio in West Africa, plus an update on relating to the mining license over the Bougouni Lithium Project in Mali, which will be one of the largest lithium mines in Africa once in operational. So that's that. No further ado, and that's welcome Bernard to the podcast. How you doing, Bernard?
Great, thanks, Rob. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time. We're recording this later on in the day, and I know it's pretty late there over in Perth, and very hot. So I really appreciate your time. Wondered if you can give an audience a little bit of background about yourself, just so the listeners can be familiarised with your background.
Well, sure. Look, as you said at the start, I'm a geologist and run Kodal Minerals as CEO, and been doing that since 2016, and it's been a really great challenge for me and a really interesting opportunity, and been having a great time with this company. But my background, really, as I said, I'm a geologist. I was born in Melbourne in Australia, famous for its gold rushes back in the 1800s, but in more recent times, really quite a bad area for a geologist to develop. And while I enjoyed it at university, and I guess like a lot of people actually had a great time at uni, went to uni to become a chemist, but ended up becoming a geologist because it was a really interesting subject, indoors, outdoors, chemistry, science, physical work. But when I graduated, it was pretty difficult in Melbourne, and I took a job over in Western Australia. Actually, my first job was with a branch of De Beers exploring for diamonds in Western Australia, and a really good start, really interesting move for me. Moved to WA and started my career, and moved from diamonds to a bit of iron ore and then into gold. And I think a lot of your listeners will know that WA is famous for its gold fields. Kalgoorlie, obviously world famous, massive gold field. And I worked all around that region for about 12 years. And again, couple of things on a professional basis. It was a really good learning and development opportunity for me. Really fun time and good success, and made a few discoveries along the way that are now open pits and operating mines, which is something to look back on. And personal level, started a family and have kids who are now true blue Western Australians and look down at us Victorians, but I can cope with that. And after a lot of time in the gold fields, I looked abroad, and again, geology's been a really great career for me. It's taken me to places I never thought I'd be. And you mentioned Europe. Well, I worked from Siberia with a really good bunch of guys on gold projects over there. Had an interesting time with a high-grade gold project in northern Greece. And again, interesting challenges, different geology, great opportunity. South America and Africa. And probably from the last 10 years or more, the last 14 years or more, I've been a lot focused on Africa, particularly West Africa, and found it a really interesting place, great challenge to work, and a great opportunity. It's one of the places I go to on a professional level, and feel that the opportunity for discovery is still great. And that's one of the reasons that we are there as Kodal, is that we look at the opportunity, and number one for us was the opportunity to get hold of the Lithium project, and we see that as a company maker for us and an opportunity to join this green energy revolution. The foundation starting with the spodumene concentrate from our project, but also the gold projects are fantastic, and we think we've got opportunities for more discoveries, and that's what keeps us going at Kodal.
Yeah, certainly. Why don't you give the audience an overview of Kodal Minerals?
Sure. Well, Kodal, we're AIM listed. We are focused primarily on West Africa. We have a lithium project in Mali called the Bougouni Lithium Project. It's about 180 kilometers south of the capital. It's really a good part of the country. It's dominated by primary industry, farming, but also major mines in the area. Gold mines include Marilla, Syama. People probably aware of Jan Falila through the London connection, and it's a clearly pro-mining, pro-development country. And our lithium project there was first highlighted by a World Bank study, and we realised through our connections that we could get hold of some of that ground where there was known pegmatite-hosted mineralisation, completely underexplored but identified, and we were able to get hold of that. So that's been our focus since 2016. We've put a resource together. We've got a feasibility study completed. We've lodged our mining license application, which we expect will be finalised shortly. We're fully environmentally approved. We have a major shareholder who is associated with the Chinese carbonate manufacturer, and we have an offtake agreement in place. So we're really well advanced for, when I explain that us as a junior company have put all this in place, I think a lot of people are surprised at how we've been advancing Bougouni. But on top of that, as you mentioned, we've got some really interesting gold assets. And just recently, earlier this year, we announced we acquired a project in Mali called the Fatu project. Consists of 2 concessions. And why we really like this project was it's already got an existing resource. A previous Canadian company compiled a 43-101 standard resource. We think we've got a great opportunity to expand that, to define that further and demonstrate something more robust and something more significant. And on top of that, we've got our advanced projects in Côte d'Ivoire, where our Nielé project for the last few years has been in a joint venture with Resolute Mining, an Australian gold mining company. They've managed to do quite a bit of work at Nielé in particular. They've had some great success with some first pass drilling and follow-up drilling, defining zones of mineralisation. But unfortunately for them, they haven't been able to spend enough money to confirm a position in the project. And that's coming back to us 100%. And we're actually really excited to get in there. We think we can provide a greater focus than perhaps Resolute were. They were distracted with a lot of other projects. And we think we've got the opportunity to expand that, to define mineralisation. And our target is to define a resource there as quickly as possible. So we expect to have 2 projects at resource level quickly. And then just recently we announced our Dabakala surface geochemical results, which I think are super exciting. We've got results up to 6 grams per tonne in surface sampling in an area where previously had been extremely underexplored. No drilling. All the work's been completed by us. Prior to us being in there was actually very limited artisanal workings, but now there's quite a focus of artisanal workings, probably following up our work. And we think it's highlighting a really exciting prospect. Early stage, of course, as I say, it's only geochem, but when we see results up to 6 grams and multiple samples over 1 gram per tonne from surface, we're pretty excited about getting back in there. So Kodal, 2-prong approach, lithium long-term, part of the future, part of this green energy development that I think is going to be key worldwide, and then gold. And I think that's a mainstay for a lot of West African companies.
Yes, certainly. Obviously, you're focusing on West Africa. Why is this a region so appealing to both junior and major mining companies? And I suppose yourselves, how comes you've dedicated more of your time in that region?
Yeah, well, I think, look, that's a really interesting question. And I think first and foremost, the answer is people are interested in West Africa because of results. And you look at a country like Ghana, it's major gold industry, major gold producer, and you look at the development that you see in Ghana, and then you look at the way that's spreading out in the West African region through Burkina Faso, through Mali and Cote d'Ivoire. You've got a pro-mining area. You've got a group that are interested in development. And key to underpinning all of this, of course, is you've got really prospective geology, and the Birimian sequence of West Africa amongst geologists is world famous. It hosts major gold mines. And realistically, I would still state that I think overall the Birimian is quite underexplored. Probably we're seeing a lot of focus of exploration from only the mid to late 90s. And in some countries such as Cote d'Ivoire, really serious exploration from around 2010. So, you know, it's not a region that's been picked over extensively. But as I said, you know, in one of the reasons I like going there is still this feeling of feeling that you're going to make a discovery, and that's what drives people. And I think that's what you see both juniors and majors can access ground, can explore ground, can undertake exploration at a reasonable cost, and feel that there's some good chance of making that valuable discovery.
Yeah. Your obviously background is in gold exploration and development. What has attracted you to the lithium industry? Obviously, I know with EV coming onto the market and the green economy, but why have you sort of had more of a focus on lithium at the moment, as opposed to obviously your background being in gold?
Yeah. Oh, well, look, again, kind of an interesting question to me, because I'm more along the thought process to say that I'm an exploration geologist first and foremost. And, you know, I take that from the initial acquisition of projects, deciding which areas that we think are prospective, right through to resource definition, feasibility studies, and commencement of mining. You know, I've worked in underground gold mines in Australia. We've worked in open pit gold mines, as I said, work in Russia. And you see a whole lot of different approaches to mining, to resource definition, and to exploration. And I would say that my professional sort of focus is on undertaking good quality work that I think exploration can be. A good exploration geologist should be able to explore for lithium, in this case, pegmatite hosted, vein hosted mineralization, or gold, or copper, or nickel, and really undertake that process properly. And one of the main things about exploration is to make sure that you understand what the economic consequences of what your program is, and really you want to spend the right amount of money to actually be able to reach a decision point. And for us, why we're looking at lithium, and this is more of a company view, is to say we saw the opportunity. We recognise that the lithium market was going to be a long-term market, that it was a fundamental change, that there's green energy, you know, our product that we produce from the Bougouni operation. And we see that as a great result for Kodal shareholders, as well as us participating in a greatly expanding market. So I still see myself as exploring and developing a mineral project. In this case, it's a lithium one, but we're also working on gold.
Yeah, okay. With the lithium market being, I suppose, quite bumpy over the last past few years, what do you think the future has in store for lithium investors and developers?
Yeah, look, I'm again, I don't know whether I say really contrarian or just have stood back and always taken this longer view that says that you can't stop this progress, and this progress has commenced. You can see there's overriding interest from governments and from populations to affect environmental change where possible. And one of those things that people think can be a key component of that is energy storage. And that for us is lithium ion batteries are obviously the best that we know of at the moment. And they can hold a lot of charge. They can discharge as required. They can be used for vehicles. They can be used for storage of green energy on a large scale. They can be used for putting into existing infrastructure networks. And so we think that overall, yes, there was some ups, some fantastic ups and prices surging and huge interest, and there's some downs, and some of that relates to market forces outside of what we see as the longer term play for lithium. In some cases, maybe you could argue that the excitement got ahead of reality and brought it back. But right now we're seeing a probable shortage in supply, and we're seeing probably a far more significant increase in demand than was expected. So yes, there's always bumps along the road, but for us, the road still looks great ahead. And I'm not going to promise it's going to be smooth sailing, but there'll still be some changes. But overall, we see it as a long-term, exciting market to be in.
Yeah. With someone that's been involved, obviously, in gold as well, what would you say the main differences are between a gold project and a lithium project? And I suppose I don't mean from a technical and process perspective. Yep. Looking at it from a, I suppose, explorer going into a developer and then obviously yep. moving forward into production. What are the main differences between the obviously the two types of commodity minerals? Well,
look, I think I explain it one way, and that is to say that when we think of our project, spodumene concentrate produced from a pegmatite, so a hard rock open pit mine, essentially we're talking about a bulk commodity. So we're looking to produce over 300,000 tonne per annum of the concentrate. We're looking to truck that out and ship it to a final end user. It's a significant component of the overall cost of the operation is that transport and that concentrating process. It's overall, you're paying about, we expect to receive over $650 a tonne when we're in production for our concentrate. It's a gravel, it's not a high price commodity. When you think of gold, you're talking about something in the order of $1,700 US an ounce. And you can carry the ounce in your hand, you can fly it out. It's a precious metal. There's multiple uses from jewelry through to high-end electrical products or industrial uses as required. Long-term historic acceptance of it as a storage of value, as a pseudo currency, if you like. And I guess this last year we've seen some dramatic times, obviously, with the COVID case. And back in March, people last year will remember there was a bit of a very strong market correction. And normally around that time of uncertainty and concern, and you see a strong pushback towards gold. And gold mining and exploring companies, that tends to lead to interest in their projects, share prices, or ability to raise funds, or in general, just more profitable operations. And so realistically, we're dealing with two different styles of commodity: a bulk commodity that we're selling that will be, in my view, part of considered the energy market, technology market, versus a gold, precious metal, currency, much easier to manage and sell. And we've got a clear differentiation there.
Yeah. As we're obviously talking about lithium, I just want to move over to sort of gold for a minute. You're advancing obviously several key gold assets, some of which have returned to Kodal from a joint venture with Resolute. What's your plan with these gold properties moving forward?
Yeah, look, ultimately we see these assets as having great value. We want to spend some money on them. We want to improve those assets. We want to really put a fundamental basis to them that says, here are some defined mineral resources that can then move into development and mining operations. Ultimately, we see Kodal being a lithium miner at Bougouni and developer. And we are a junior company. We recognise that. We want to focus and we want to do that as well as we can. So we've been saying for a while, we're looking to crystallise the value of those gold assets, and whether it's through another party joining us in that exploration joint venture style, or we're looking to have a party earn into take a share of those operations. We see that as being a great benefit to us, the company, to our Kodal shareholders, and actually getting the best result for those gold assets. So ultimately, I think we're going to see great benefit for us being able to focus on lithium, as well as having these gold assets developing. We've incubated them. We're looking to grow them. We're looking for someone else to really make them flourish.
Yeah. And what's the potential of these gold assets?
Well, look, like I said, the project we acquired earlier this year, the last resource estimate that was put out on it was about 350,000 ounces of gold from surface. Was pretty focused work. It had a lot of potential to expand that. There was two clearly defined targets, both of which had been drilled reasonably. Only one of those had been taken to a resource. We think we can expand that, and I'm looking at a significant increase as soon as possible on that project. And the Nile project hasn't had a resource estimate at the moment. But it's got a significant number of wide, good grade intersections that, in my view, looking at the geology, they form a consistent body that we can interpret over a strike length of over 1 kilometre. It's open at depth, it's open along strike. We see that also having potential to, with proper drilling and proper geological control, move to a resource. So I see us being able to have a significant gold resource to Kodal's name within, by the end of this year. And I can't really say a size, but I'm saying right now that 350 is really a very base start for us, and we expect to significantly improve that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of speculation about the start of a commodities super cycle. We mentioned obviously this before we're recording this. Are there any other commodities that you feel like you want to get exposure to, or are you happy with the precious metal battery mix that you've got within your portfolio?
Well, I guess I'd like to. I'd probably answer that with, first and foremost, Rob, a bit of an investor hat on and say, look, my investments, my personal investments, I've got a bit of exposure to copper, a bit of exposure to nickel. I think both of those are all part of what we're seeing as this battery commodity. I obviously like gold, and I think that's going to be strong. And then, you know, the fundamentals of things like iron ore still look to me to be very strong. We're still seeing lots of infrastructure development, country development, you know, massive programs that require a lot of raw materials. So the super cycle idea, I often get a bit concerned about people throwing that phase around. But one thing I do say, when I see the way things are at the moment, it's a great time to be a geologist. You know, there's lots of work for us around. We at Kodal have got a great team of geologists. We're probably looking for one or two more. And I think it's hard to get good people. And that's always a sign to me that there's a lot of activity. You know, drill rigs are busy, drill rigs are turning, projects are being brought and sold, and people are being able to make development. So that's the kind of thing I see that says to me, we're already in a bit of a significant upcycle. Will it continue? Yes, I think it will continue. You know, my crystal ball says a couple of years at least, and probably different from some previous times where you might have seen some of the sort of 2010 to 14 or earlier cycle was a lot of iron ore, huge success, aluminium, huge. But now we're seeing this as a multi-commodity focus. And as I said, copper, nickel, gold, lithium, iron ore, it's all really strong at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to be in mining, and I think we have got quite a good few years ahead of us. I think there's going to be a lot of money entering the industry as well.
Yep.
You touched on one thing about it's hard getting good people. What are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, I'm a recruiter. What are your thoughts on, I suppose, the people that are coming into the industry? If you are looking at the younger generation, obviously we're recording this in 2021. There seems to be some of the universities around the world that are cutting or freezing, pausing their mine engineering degrees. I think there's been quite a big lag of people studying degree-related subjects within mining and going into the mining industry. There's been a lag for quite a few years, and I think that is getting worse. And you just mentioned about it's good to get hard people. How are you going to see this in, say, 5 or 10 years time, when these guys or girls that are studying these subjects should be going into management? There's going to be undersupply of managerial that have the good technical capabilities moving forward. And I suppose what is the answer to sort of fix what we have been seeing over the past few years?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question, and a really difficult problem to address. And I think in some ways it reflects what you hear a lot of people talk about, of a boom and bust cycle. And, you know, oftentimes mining reflects that quite dramatically, sadly, and you'll hear a lot of layoffs and shutdowns and, you know, basically no money for any work, and people need to then shop around. And, you know, there's always a joke of, in the down cycle, every taxi driver is a geologist, or, you know, a mining engineer, or whatever they are. You know, it's that happens. How do we counteract this? So I'm not really sure I know, other than what I would say is I get disappointed when I hear things like universities are cutting degrees and moving out of mining related subjects. And the reason I'm disappointed, not is because of, a bias. Well, it is obviously a bias. I think what it's doing is removing a quality training and education and science-based subject from people who, it is a niche industry. And I say personally, geology's been great for me, but I do recognise it's not a job that's everyone's suited to or would like or even understand. But there's a lot of people that it is good for, and I think they're going to miss out. And longer term, the industry suffers because we don't have that diverse range of people coming through, new ideas or new interest or that sort of young, enthusiasm. We need to foster that as an industry to ensure that people see there's opportunities. And I think, historically, and mining industry is not different from lots of other industries where someone young coming in gets thrown out to do the worst job, and if they can't cut it, they're just chopped, and that's not a great way to treat people. No one likes to be treated like that. And the mining industry, I think, has worked pretty hard over the years to make sure people have good rosters. We recognise that you don't mine in London, you don't mine in capital cities like Perth. You do need people to go out to the bush. You do need to make them. You do need to provide reasonable conditions for them, and that's always been improving. So I think the thing to really make it interesting for people is to ensure that we show that we've got an interesting long-term job, that we've got opportunities for people to grow and develop, and that, I guess also as well, you can earn good money in mining. You've got to admit that you will be away for a while, and you will be out of your university pub scene, which, I guess, like I said, I loved it, but reality sets in after a while, and you've got to get out and earn some money. And mining lets you do that.
Certainly. Obviously, if this sort of continues with sort of universities cutting courses, hopefully it's just a phase, hopefully. But with the lack of people coming into the industry, do you think that mining companies should take it upon themselves, and obviously the industry should take it upon themselves to somehow overcome the lack of skills in the younger generation coming through? And if so, what can they do to form something so we can reverse this sort of trend?
Well, look, I think, we're not alone, and I can't speak for what's going on in the UK, but I do say in Australia, our technical TAFE colleges have been terribly cut. Our plumbing and electricians and all that sort of, again a primary industry, building related, infrastructure related, that's being hurt really badly, and we're missing a lot of kids coming through with this idea of taking on an apprenticeship and learning how to get into a trade. I look at what we do, and yes, there's certainly times when you need the super smart academic geologist, and the guy who has lots of experience and exposure. But what we like when we have these guys come to our site and look at things is actually we want them to train up our guys, and we want them to pass on some of their experience so that our guys are always learning new things. Other jobs I've worked in, we've taken people who've started off as a field assistant who works with a geologist, and we start training them up to do more of the more technical side of the job. And I think companies can offer a lot in terms of training. I think companies can offer a lot in terms of expanding all their workers' skill base, and that is going to help. But ultimately, we do need just to make sure we keep training professionals, that they get good mentoring when they take on companies, and we need companies to understand that sometimes, you know, I've I've looked at some great exploration projects. I think they're fantastic, and I think they're going to find it. You know, we do lots. We think we've got the next big one, and they don't turn out, sadly. And there was something missing, some ingredient we didn't understand. But that doesn't mean that you don't follow up with the next lot of exploration, because that's your bread and butter. That's your base for your next lot of mines. And if companies can't keep supporting that, then the industry will slowly grind to a halt. And that's what I think is, you know, you need the universities for the professionals, you need the companies to be training and mentoring their staff. So it's a, you know, it's a again, it's not an easy question you asked, and I can't really give an easy answer. I think it's a multi-phased, multifaceted approach required.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will reverse somehow if there is going to be a super cycle, and the industry will have a better image. It's going to be more in the media a lot more, hopefully for the right reasons. And then encouraging those people to look at mining and even just looking at studying that. So hopefully if we are at the bottom of that kind of area, hopefully with what's coming over the future, with the whole green economy, hopefully it will put a good image on mining as an industry, and for those students that are looking to get into an industry, hopefully mining can be one of those picks, and hopefully that will kickstart and have the mining as a better image than it has been in the past.
Look, I think that's really important, and I think also we've got to emphasize that we have a range of opportunities, from, you know, you're out in the bush, field geologist, mapping, working with the drill rigs, right through to the very technical, the very computer oriented, the very scientific based. You know, the treatment process for a lot of ore is very complicated chemistry, very interesting for lots of people. We use geophysics, we use geochemistry. There's a huge range, and we're not just, you know, take your shovel and dig a hole sort of operation. And if people think that, they're way behind the times. And we offer people a great range of opportunities, and that's what I like to emphasize to people, that it's not just mining. There's a whole lot to it, and it's a very complicated business. It's a very intensive business, and we need the full range, from accountants through to your guys on the ground. And it works for me, and I think there's lots of other people who do well out of our industry.
Yeah, certainly. Right, moving on and sort of concluding, I wondered if you can give us an outlook of Kodal Minerals over the short and medium term, maybe over the next 3 to 5 years, what the future is.
Yep. Okay. Well, look, immediately, as I said at the start, we actually have a mining license application in Mali for our Bougouni Lithium project. Our understanding through our discussions with the government is everything from our side is complete. We're waiting for them to finish off a bit of their bureaucracy, moving back and forward, and we really anticipate getting that license shortly. But sadly, shortly could mean a month, shortly could mean a bit longer than that. But we anticipate getting it, and from then, our focus then is to really move on Bougouni to look at that development. We have an MOU with a Chinese infrastructure specialist group called Sino-Hydro. They're actually out visiting our site, well, I'm going to say tomorrow because we're recording it now, but tomorrow being sort of late February, out to site again to do another review of the logistics and management of that project. We've got our offtake partner who's always been keen for us to move to development. So I see us moving through the process then of looking to finish a feasibility study on Bougouni to demonstrate the ability to finance that operation, and then look to start construction. And that's that's going to be a great challenge for us. And that's the next 2 years sort of tied up, moving through that to actually constructing, to completing construction. I think that's going to be great for us. And, we're talking about this super cycle or EV revolution or electric green energy revolution. We think we're going to be coming out into a perfect time in that, we'd be able to supply a good product into a high demand market. And that's going to be fantastic. We see then the gold operations as well. And that's a focus for us over this field season right now. And when I say field season in West Africa, we have a wet season that starts around July through to end of September. Rainy season, very difficult to operate and move around. So we have a field season outside of that. So between now and July, we're going to have intensive drilling at our Fatu project in Mali. We're going to be drilling at our Nile project in Cote d'Ivoire. We're going to be completing some infill geochemistry at Dabakala and looking to do a maiden drilling program there in Cote d'Ivoire. So intensive field work, gold projects, looking at our development opportunity at Bougouni. So 3 months gold, longer term lithium. Gold will carry on for the next 12 months as we move into the next field season and look to crystallize those assets and move into development. And I guess then we're a company that looks at opportunities. And as I've sort of said a lot of times, I think West Africa offers lots of opportunities. And we'll be looking to expand Kodal further, and whether it's trying to acquire additional lithium projects in West Africa, or perhaps even getting involved in other gold projects in West Africa or other commodities. We're really interested in developing our company.
So you're looking basically to grow further if the right opportunities come to you.
Yep, exactly. And look, we've got a good team, very familiar with West Africa, good team of geologists, good corporate support in the UK, good consultant experts that we can call on, Australia and Africa and again UK. We've got a very quick, proactive team that can assess and move on opportunities quickly.
Bernard, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much explaining Kodal Minerals to us. If our audience wants to reach out to you, how can they go about doing that?
They can get hold of me through Kodal, and any of our announcements have my contact details on them. And we have our PR people, we have lots of people. There's lots of ways to get hold of me. Questions I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
And are you on any social media platforms yourself or Kodal?
We do LinkedIn. We have a Twitter profile where we try and make sure we spread a bit of the news about, number one, Kodal, of course, that's our love. But secondly, we spread a lot of news about what's going on in West Africa, what's going on with the lithium market and mining stories in general. So yeah, we do Twitter, we have the LinkedIn, and people would have heard me on other interviews, Rob, I think, talking about Kodal and what I see is going on with the mining industry.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate your time. Like I said, Bernard, all the social media profiles will be accompanied in our show notes accompanying this podcast. And those that are watching on the YouTube channel, appreciate if you can like and share below, so more people can listen to Bernard's story, and also obviously Kodal Minerals and what they're looking to do in the future. So hope you guys enjoyed listening. Certainly got some good information there. And please follow Kodal Minerals and obviously see their journey. So until next time, happy mining.